Well, welcome back to Red Glasses Talks, and we're focused on when trouble comes. So when trouble comes, what do you do? How do you respond? There's a great verse I want to read, actually almost two verses in Romans chapter 8, and that's what I want to break down today. Romans 8, 28 and 29. 28 is pretty familiar with us. 29 is not quite as familiar. Verse 28. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Verse 29, for God knew his people in advance, and he chose them to become like his son. So God's purpose is that we become like Jesus. That's our purpose for being on this earth. So a lot of times that verse, especially verse 28, God causes all things to work together for good. There are a lot of misconceptions. Here's one. God causes everything to work out the way that is good for me. Well, there's part of that's true, but sometimes it's not true. Here's another one. God works stuff out for me because I'm so good. I'm a good guy. I'm a good gal. No, again. The key here is this. You've got to remember that we live in a fallen world, and in this fallen world, we are going to be in for a rough ride. And the reason we're in for a rough ride is we live in a fallen world. Go back to Genesis 3. I always go back to this. We're cut off from God. We're cut off from ourselves. We're cut off from others, and we live in a universe that everything was impacted when Adam and Eve blew it. It's all come down through the years to impact us in 2020. So I want to take that verse, those two verses, Romans 8, 28 and 29, and I want to take it phrase by phrase and just give a quick thought on each phrase. First of all, it says, we know. Our hope, this is saying, is based on the faithfulness of God. God is in control, and I'm not. God is in control all the time. When he seems not to be present and in control is when he is in most control. Then it says that God causes. God is behind it all. Now, stick with me. He has a master plan, and he is the master of the plan on this planet. God does not change. It says in James 1:17, he never changes or casts shifting shadows. God's consistent. He's always the same. God does not make mistakes. A perfect God cannot make mistakes. So that means everything. God causes everything. What's everything? Everything means everything. Everything you and I experience in this life, our mistakes, our sins, our hurts, divorce, death of a loved one, and more. And out of all of that, he brings good. Stick with me. So we know that God causes everything to work together. All that happens in your life and in mine is part of God's process to help us to become like Jesus. He somehow blends it all together, the good, the bad, the ugly, to help us to become like Jesus for our good. Then it says, for our good. So this is important to get this. This does not say in the Bible that everything is good. It doesn't say that. It's saying he brings good out of all the mess. Got to get that straight, or you can really become very sinister and skeptical about this, quote, good God. So let me give you a study sometime to do, if you're willing to do that. Look up in the Bible and check out the history of Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and Bathsheba. They've got quite a past. Read up on them. You know who came out of that lineage? Jesus. So, listen to this. God's purpose is greater than our problems, our pain, our disappointments, our losses, and our sins. He brings good out of all the chaos and the craziness so that we can become more like his son, Jesus Christ. Then it says, of those who love God and are according to his purpose. So he brings good out of all the craziness so that those of us who love God and are called by his purpose can benefit. Who is that? Believers. This is a promise only for people that have Jesus Christ in their life. So if you don't have Christ in your life, this promise does not apply to you. You just need to know that. You say, well, that's not fair. Why not? Jesus came into the world, John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Have you believed in him? Have you asked him to come into your life? You know, he's made a move. Now you got to make a move. Then it says, according to his purpose. What is the purpose? What is God's purpose that he's doing all this for in the life of a person that follows him? So that we can become like his Son. God's purpose in everything, every irritation, every disappointment, every difficulty, it's all going to be used by a gracious God to help us to become more like his Son. All God allows to happen in you and in me is permitted by him. He doesn't push a button and cause it to happen. It's permitted by him. For what purpose? So that we can become like him. And let me read it again. In Romans 8:28 and 29, and we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Verse 29, for God knew his people in advance and chose them to become like his Son Jesus Christ. So what a promise. Do you have that promise? You have to have some Jesus to have that promise. But when you get Jesus in your life, not only will you get that promise, but so much more. You think about that.